Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Zen Blonde podcast. Today, I am joined by two very special guests. I'm a huge fan of their podcast. It's called Celebrity Memoir Book Club, and their names are Claire and Ashley. They read everything so that you don't have to. And truly, if you ever wanted the deep dive on any celebrity essentially just telling on themselves, these are your girls. So today we are talking about Marilyn Manson, and I made my new friends read a very traumatic book by Marilyn Manson called The Long Road to Hell. I hope they forgive me. I hope they don't need therapy because of it, but we're doing it because he essentially just tells on himself the entire book. And we have Phoenix Rising coming out next week, tons of allegations. So let's dive into it. Welcome, Claire and Ashley.
Thank you for having us.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys for being here. I have long loved your podcast. I think it's like the most brilliant idea ever, and I'm so glad that you guys read things so I don't have to. So what was your overall feel for this book? Or how are you guys doing? What's the mental health check-in?
It was brutal. I mean, I think we're pretty inert against like asshole men memoirs. We've read a bunch of them at this point. This was next level. This was a book that was like hard to get through. I had to put it down a couple times. I had to skim over some parts that I couldn't handle. It was like a lot of them make me mad. This one I just felt like I can't stomach it almost. It was like too far gone.
Yeah, this one, I feel like a lot of them, I'm like, oh, you're so annoying, but like, let's get the story. And this one, I was like, I don't want your story out. I don't think that you like should be able to say anything. Do you know what I mean? It's like whatever you have to say, you're coming from a perspective that's like so. I actually don't even think it's sick and twisted. I think it's so like wannabe sick and twisted that it makes it worse. Like he was saying in one part of the book that he calls himself a psychopath and is like, I can pass a psych evaluation because like any good psychopath, I like know what to say to like sound normal. And it's like, yeah, I also think you know what to say to sound insane. And you're like, I don't know, the amount of like shock value performance art crap. I'm like, get out of here with this. Like, I feel like I was almost less bothered by it because I was like, the whole point of this book is to freak people out. And I'm like, I don't want to give him the satisfaction. I just want to be like, this is stupid and it sucks and you're a bad person at the end.
Yeah. More like I found it horrific, but also in a way deeply boring because it was so contrived.
Yes, it's not, like, he's so boring.
Yeah, like anybody.
He's kind of like he's like that kid in high school that just like wanted to like shock and scare everyone, and I very much think that is sort of who he became. Like, I mean, in the first few chapters we hear about his childhood, but for anyone that's listening that doesn't know about Marilyn Manson, the reason why we're talking about him, so I did a series on TikTok over a year ago when all the allegations came out, and I started kind of talking about like what Evan Rachel Wood had come forward saying, and you know, she named him for the first time last February. And then it led to sort of like a domino effect of other women coming forward with very similar accounts. And now I think we're up to around 16 women. And there was an investigation in Florida involving minors. So the thing is, I was posting these things and people were like, well, we've known this. We've known he's been like this. And I'm like, well, why didn't you riot the streets? And why didn't you have like an anti-Marilyn Manson protest if you knew that this is how he was? Like, I'm just learning this. This is new information to me. I always ignored him because he was creepy to me and was not my scene at all. So people alerted me to this book. I read it. I did this series and like, there were just so many different reactions to it. And it was something that it was truly like, I know you guys say this, but it was truly like, I'm reading this so you don't have to. I don't think anyone should read this book. I don't think anyone should support this man. If somebody wants the book, I'm sure all three of us would be willing to send them our copy. But it's just
I'm happy to get it out of my house.
Yeah,
I didn't bring it into my house.
I'm like, it's bad fucking energy and I don't want it here. I also like can't think of any music by him. Like, what is he besides a vibe? Like, I don't understand what he does. I think his biggest song is the
Sweet Dreams.
Yeah, but that's a cover. That's not even his
song. That was
all
I knew. And I don't know if you saw in the book, but he was like, one of the lines in that song perfectly sums up like my experience of like being in this industry and just the way I live life. Like, some of them want to abuse you and some of them want to be abused. Like, he is literally telling on himself the entire book. Like, it's crazy. And now, so
Oh,
No, go
sorry. I
ahead.
was gonna say it's so interesting to me to be a musician who's like the line that perfectly sums up my art and my life and my like lifestyle is something that someone else wrote. That's so weird.
100%, 100%. And so I was thinking of, because two of the allegations right now, there's a petition out that Evan Rachel Wood wants to have this music video of her taken down because abuse was occurring allegedly during the music video. Esme Bianco, who was in Game of Thrones, had an open case because she was taken from London to California under the presumption that she was doing this music video. But then again, she said that abuse occurred and like he had her allegedly again, like sleep deprived, like not eating, like, and then you hear him in the book saying he reads these like hypnotist books and like books on
Yeah.
brainwashing and is obsessed with Manson. And you're like, you are methodical and you use like the shock rocker persona as a smokescreen for actually like bad behavior. And then anytime somebody tries to call you out on it, you chalk it up to, oh, well, it's just my controversial way.
Well, that's what made me the most angry was like it's such a like stupid man take to be like this is all performance art, and he lists some of the things that he does as a metaphor, and they're so hack and obvious. And I was thinking like these aren't actually metaphors. This isn't art. This is more like, do you remember when you were little and you would have to try to crack the code and it'd be like little pictures and you'd have to guess what the pictures mean? Like that's how deep it is. Like he describes one of his on stage performances as like a pregnant woman is ironing a swastika flag, like a Nazi flag, and then gives birth to a baby and wraps it up in the flag and presents it to the TV. And he's like, it's a metaphor for the fact that American parents let the fascist television stations raise their children. I'm like, well, that's not a metaphor as much as it is like a literal symbolic interpretation. Like these aren't deep concepts. You're not doing anything impressive. It really is like a 1-for-1 equation of Pictionary. He's not some genius.
Yes.
Nothing he's doing is that smart.
No,
Oh,
no, but I
TV's
think you even
bad?
said
Putting
it
your
too.
kid in front of a TV is bad? Great idea. Like huge, like ceiling breaking, earth shattering concept that you shouldn't raise your children on TV. Thanks, Marilyn.
That's how I feel about like everything he said in the whole book. Like when he was talking about like the naming of himself as Marilyn Manson, he was like, I embody two like equal but opposite versions of light and dark, and each one within them has light and dark. Like Marilyn Monroe has a darkness to her light, and Charles Manson has a light to his dark. And I was like, shut the fuck up. Like what
also, but I was like, oh, what was good about what was good about Charles Manson? And he never like fills that in. He just says it. Like I was waiting for him to explain to me, like, did Charles Manson do a lot of charity work? Like what was the light that we're giving to him?
There's nothing good about Charles Manson. I mean, and even the obsession with Manson and covering the song My Monkey that was a Manson song, and then upsetting Sharon Tate's family, and also like doing it in like the Sharon Tate house was just so sickening. I mean, he's such a sicko. So I mean, the first three chapters we kind of do get like an insight into a childhood that like was arguably traumatic, which what I always say with these male abusers is like, because a lot of them fall back on the traumatic childhood experiences and, oh, it was my trauma that led me into this. It's like, you have all of the resources in the world, you have all the money in the world to get help for your trauma. And I always like harken back to like the Holocaust, because it was like such a mass trauma of so many people, and you saw all these people come out of this mass trauma and do amazing things in the world, like start charities and help people and like do all these amazing things. And that's why I just like, I always use that as my example, is like, it was like the trauma isn't a cop out for you to just behave that way. Like, I'm sorry. People go
also,
through
it's like if you're so much smarter than everybody, he has this combo of I had a trauma and I'm smarter than you, so I've used that to become sick. And it's like, actually, if you're so smart, why don't you get a fucking grip? Why don't you use that intelligence to like like I also, what was the trauma that he had a mean neighbor who like poisoned his dog?
That's
bad.
Assaulted him and then killed his dog.
Okay,
and then
I mean, his neighbor played doctor. Whatever. I don't know. Show me.
I'm saying that's the story. I'm not saying it's like all reasonable.
Is such a like, he's such a shock rocker that I almost think sometimes, like, not to like victim shame or blame, but some of these stories, like, I wonder like what was fabricated and what wasn't. Maybe the neighbor really was malicious,
something I would like to say. I would like to like piggyback off of that and say, hold on, Ashley. Hold on. This is important because his whole trauma is that he caught his grandfather jerking off while he was spying on him. Like, your grandpa's allowed to jerk off. What, like your grandpa liked to wear
Yeah.
women's clothes? That's not a trauma. The way that something that he does is he has no loyalty to anybody. So he's willing to exploit the most like titillating, scandalous things from his childhood. And by saying them and like having them be a part of his early memories, he like pawns them off as trauma. But I think if you sneak into your grandfather's basement where he keeps porn, he's allowed, he's an adult, and spy on him and watch him jerk off, like that's on you. That's not traumatic. That's like a choice you made specifically to watch your grandfather jerk off.
Yeah, no, I was going to agree. I think that I was going to list his childhood traumas that he says. Okay. So first he had this grandfather who had some real explicit and unique sexual interests. Okay. And he spied on, like, and none of them were public. They were all things that Marilyn Manson found through snooping. Or I want to call him Brian because fuck this bitch. But like,
He's Brian.
yeah. So number one is the grandpa thing, a thing that like did not happen to him. It's a thing that he sought out. Two is the neighbor who sexually assaulted him, which like sucks, but a lot of people have been sexually assaulted and don't go on to become like sadistic fucks. Two is that neighbor, or three, that neighbor might have killed his dog, but we don't really know. Also, he went to a Christian school where Christianity was unpleasant for him and all the nuns were mean to him. And like the other students were mean to him because he was like a wormy little bitch.
Can I also say,
I'm like, I don't know. I
this is like problematic.
No, I mean,
well, okay. I want to say like the sexual assault. Like, I'm not an expert, so I don't know where the line gets drawn on this, but I do think that there a lot of children like play doctor or play house or like, do you know what I mean? Like there's like a natural curiosity that children have. And I don't know when a line gets crossed, like when it, like obviously like I guess you get to decide, but I do think like how traumatized was he? Like he had a neighbor, and they like would get naked sometimes and play jail. I don't know. Like it doesn't sound great, but I also like, I think a different person could have said that was normal. I definitely at like 6 years old had played doctor before. I'm not like, I was right by my best friend.
Yeah.
I think we've like learned through some previous memoirs that we've read and like people who reached out to us, like within child psychiatry, there is like certain debate about like what the age gap is where it's considered like assault and when it's like childhood curiosity. Like if you are all kids, it's hazy.
I mean, I want to say for listeners, the neighbor was, I think, like 2 or 3 years older than him, but they were like, everybody involved was prepubescent.
Right.
Yeah. And listen, like it didn't have to be right. But at the same time, even if he had been through the worst trauma in the world, it doesn't excuse adult behavior. We could feel bad for the little kid that maybe had like wasn't being watched enough and like should have been protected to a degree. But at the same time, again, he had him naked on a dumbwaiter and they were playing jail. You know, that was the assault. So that was terrible to a degree, but like at the same time, again, I see what you're saying with the childhood curiosity. I think a lot of us like played doctor when we were little. And the other thing too is, you know, with the dog poisoning, so the kid gets sent off to military school and then his dog gets poisoned. And he said his dog was his only friend when the nuns were being mean to him and he was getting rejected by girls and all these different things. But then, you know, I noticed another undercurrent of this book is like from adolescent ages, he like completely objectifies women. Even like the girl that he liked, he does. The girl that he liked her up until he was covering her face because she was calling him short. She like let out a booger on his hand, and he could describe a paper cut in this book and make it the most traumatic description of a paper cut I've ever heard in my life. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed that, but it was like, you're talking about like this, but like you're making it like 10 times worse in your description. And he completely didn't want to talk to her ever again because of a booger.
One thing that I found really horrifying about this book, aside from like the horrors that he paints, is the way he describes every single woman as like something disgusting and negative and bad and or objectifying or whatever. Like even the women he likes and thinks are attractive, like this girl that he had a crush on, he says that she is like sickly and weird, but he had a crush on her anyway. Then there's this other girl, like when he starts dating in high school, he meets girls who are like pig-nosed, but whatever. Like everything has a negative, mean, fucked up description about it. Like every time he talks about a woman, he describes her in a way that is absolutely mean. And I'm like, okay, well, then stop trying to fuck them. I don't understand what you're trying to do here. Like, you're so
I know,
smart,
and
you're so cool, you're so above wanting these women. I have to, like, I want to find one of the, I don't know if I'll find it, but
Well, you know what's
I
funny
mean,
is he doesn't
it's so
actually
horrible.
describe any of the thing, like all the childhood stuff we just named is presented as traumatic in the sense that you're reading it and it's like very intense and vivid. And so it's presented in the same way that you would present like a traumatic memory, but he doesn't call them traumas. The thing that he says that like fucks him up for life, that scars him worse than anything that's ever happened in his life, is a girl breaks up with him when he's 19, that Rochelle or whatever. Rochelle.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
he
and she
says
was
that
like, he was
that is the
into
most
timing
horrific
him.
thing. Yeah, he was 19, she was 22. She was coming out of a breakup. She got engaged to somebody else. And like he says, that's the thing that left him a worse scar than anything else and made him decide to treat everybody horribly. And I'm like, okay, so, oh, you got dumped? Like, that's so boring. That's so boring.
You know what it
Yeah.
reminds me of is like Hugh Hefner having that like girlfriend in like Chicago back in the, like when he was really young and then deciding he wanted to be this like playboy. But then like even though like we are now just really truly understanding the horrors of his behavior and like how he was truly just like another like Weinstein or Epstein or like you know what I mean with the I don't know if you guys have been watching Secrets of Playboy, but he would videotape people in his house, record the sound, and then have blackmail on them and then do horrible things. But he if they tried to print it anywhere or whatever, he had the media in his pocket because he'd invite them to the parties. Like, but I feel like with Marilyn Manson, like the reason Hugh Hefner started Playboy and the reason he wanted to create this persona was because of a breakup or because of a girl that didn't like him when he was in high school. And it's just like Brian Warner reminds me of like that in a different cloak and a different like light where it's just like there was this one incident that he used as an excuse to absolutely treat women in such an abusive way and degrading way for the rest of his life. You know?
Yeah, I just found 4 descriptions. He says there was Jill Tucker, a blonde-haired minister's daughter with crooked buck teeth whom I kissed in the playground at Christian school. 3 years later, I fell in mad, desperate love with Michelle. Gill, a cute, flat-nosed girl with feathered brown hair and a wide mouth that probably went on to give good blowjobs. All she let me do was grope her flat. Like, then he's talking about Jennifer. All she let me do was grope her flat chest. Then he's talking about another girl, a girl whose frizzy hair, big nose, and thickly painted eyeliner stand out more in my memory than her name. And then he talks about Tina Potts. Tina was even more fish-faced than Jennifer, had bigger lips and a more severe overbite. Like, the way he describes every single woman is so fucked up. And it's like, I get it. Okay? These aren't women that you liked them because they were present, but you're too evolved to actually care for people. Like, what are you trying to say?
Also, have you taken a look in the mirror, Brian? Like,
Yeah.
not to
Disgusting.
be a bitch, but like now I feel like he's given me like license to be mean. I mean, he's just awful. And you know there were so I think just backtracking to some of the childhood stuff, like the kid John that he hung out with, whose brother was like demonic. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
weird because I feel like there were sort of like these different parts of the book where he tried to lay it on that he has this like Satanist background and like this spooky, creepy background. So he talked about his friend's brother who, you know, they would hang out at this abandoned house that they said were the gates to hell, and he was incanting these spells, and there were like dead animals around. And I'm like, this just sounds like one of the signs of being like a serial killer, that this guy had like dead animals like around this like abandoned house that they were hanging out at. And like the whole thing was just so psychotic. So then he gets to Florida and he starts writing, and I mean we have to sit through this short story that he submitted about necrophilia that was so awful, so awful.
It was treacherous, followed by poems that were
this
just as treacherous.
I had to skim through those both times I read the book, but I did read the necrophilia one where it was like there was a sex doll that the character was hiding from his mom, and the sister caught him with the sex doll, so he killed the sister and then slept with her while she was dead, and then the mom sewed his eyes shut, buried him alive with the eyes sewed shut. And it was just this like deeply twisted literature that I like never wanted to ever read. But again, like I was sucked into this through TikTok.
Literature is such a generous word to use. I mean, it's also like, yeah, I think that story is like a perfect example of how boring of a brain he has. If we were all given Mad Libs and told just like come up with something fucked up, you'd be like, I don't know, what's fucked up? I guess having sex with your dead sister. Like, I wouldn't write it, but if you put a gun to my head and said, like, what's a fucked up thing? Those aren't unique, original, fucked up. Like, in the genre of freak people out, He's not some kind of genius. Do you know what I mean? Like, these are very hack, boring ideas that just happen to be gross. And it's less like, how did you come up with that? And more like, why? Why are you wasting our time with this? But yet, because most people don't want to, he thinks he's smart.
He has such a like grandiose view of his own like Satanism or whatever it's called, like satanic bullshit. Like he's always talking about like his place in hell and like I don't know, like I don't want to skip ahead, but like later he meets like a satanic leader who dies and is like, wow, hell gained a new ruler, and it's like, no.
Or I mean, even that guy's wife, he's so rude to. Like, there's not one woman that he respects. He can't even be polite to the wife of his satanic overlord.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, truly, there's not one woman where I said, wow, even his mother, his own mother, who as a child he hit with a perfume bottle and gave her a like, permanent scar she had to go to the hospital for because he thought she was cheating on his dad or she wouldn't tell him where she was that night. So this started very young and persisted. Like, and at the end of the book, not to again jump ahead, but he acts like he's had like an awakening and he's starting to feel again because he stopped doing drugs and stuff. And I'm like, no, because I mean, all the stuff that came out about Evan Rachel Wood and everything that came out was like 15 years after this book. So you can't fix this unless you get sent away and go to therapy. And even then, I don't know if this is so deeply ingrained in him, the misogyny. And it's so funny because we're recording this on International Women's Day. And I'm like, I mean, I talk about these topics on TikTok because I really do hate seeing misogyny in the media. And I'm so mad that Kanye West is giving him a platform. Well, anyway, in chapter 6.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that Kanye just did that.
Oh, I completely like boycott Kanye because of his association with Marilyn Manson. I think Kanye thinks he's like the great redeemer or something, and that he gets to play God and decide who is, able to have a platform and not. And I really can't stand that he put him on Donda. But so in chapter 6, we meet Nancy, the woman who is dating like this guy. And so Marilyn Manson has a girlfriend. Her name's, I think, not Missy.
Teresa.
Marilyn Manson has a girlfriend, Teresa. Okay, this is when
yeah.
Teresa and him were dating. And so Nancy wants to be a part of the depraved things that are going on stage. So Marilyn Manson has her in cages. He has her on a leash. He's dragging her around the stage. They're doing basically going as far in terms of like kind of mock sexual behavior, like that they can without getting in trouble with their respective partners. But like, what did you guys make of this whole Nancy thing? I think this is the first time that we saw like probably what was the behavior that went on for the rest of his time as an artist and just continued to get worse.
Well, I think it was more than like mock sexual.
Yeah. In the beginning, I know he described it as like acting like they were grabbing each other and stuff in the beginning.
But then I think it very quickly, like he starts beating her up more and more brutally. And then also she starts giving him head and they're like, she's getting naked. It gets like pretty intense.
Yeah, this is a direct quote. Nancy asked me to punch her in the face and I began giving her crueler beatings each show.
So the thing that is like heartbreaking about this part for me is that Nancy thought that she was like a collaborator. She thought that she was like in on it with him and coming up with these like 6 sadistic performance art scenarios and like being a part of it. And then when he like kicks her out, she's like, what are you talking about? This is our project. And he's like, no, you're a prop. And she like can't believe it. Like, I mean, sure, she was like consenting to these like horrible scenarios because she thought that she was like part of the creative process. And then he was like, no, that's not it at all. And then she just like was a girl who was getting beat up on stage for entertainment, which like I don't see how that's entertainment, but like she clearly thought that she was doing something here, and he was just treating her like shit, which is the way he treats all women. But I don't know.
He made just like comment. He was
I feel like. So you go.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just like it also like repeats his pattern of he introduces Nancy as like the psychosexual terror. He's like the insanity of the dynamic. Like he really plays it up like nobody has ever been in a more fucked up dynamic. But ultimately, all it was he was dating her best friend. I mean, it's no different than what's happening in Euphoria.
Oh, yeah.
The tale as old as time love triangle, and I think that that's really what like Mark's Marilyn Manson is effectively at his core, he is basic, and then he just acts badly. He's a basic man acting badly, acting like this is groundbreaking material. And really, this was just,
Oh yeah,
he was cheating on his girlfriend with her friend. Okay.
And abusive
everything.
men will, no, abusive
Oh, go
people will
ahead.
always try to triangulate, like, and that's one of the things that like I've learned through like studying like abusive like behavior and relationships. Like they'll always try to triangulate and have somebody in the corner to like kind of like create instability in the relationship. So he just like again
That's so
tells on
interesting.
himself so much. And these shows were so messed up because like I'm sure you guys read the account of him throwing bags of chocolate chip cookies, and then half the bags were cat shit into the crowd, and like he wanted to teach his crowd a lesson on making assumptions. And then he did this other thing that he called this like Willy Wonka-esque thing where he filled a piñata with like guts and gizzards and like all this like fucked up like meat parts, and then left a bat on the side of the stage and was like, don't hit it, don't hit it. And it's like, of course they're gonna hit it, and then everyone's covered in guts. And I'm like, who in their right fucking mind would ever want to go to one of these shows? I mean, truly. So
Yeah.
but then he starts planning Nancy's murder, and he admits this. He's plotting to kill her.
Yeah.
Like fully.
Yeah. So in the book, for anyone who hasn't read it, and I hope you haven't, he's dating Teresa. Nancy's her best friend. He and Nancy start hooking up one day when he's on acid, and he like plays it off as him being like, his body is like a willing participant, but his mind is like, why am I doing this? And it's like, yeah, I don't know, because you're a horny asshole. Like that's why. I don't really know what to tell you. And then he like tells her that they can't fuck anymore, and then he kicks her out of the band and tells her that she's a useless prop, and so she starts sabotaging them. She's like canceling their shows, like accusing them of all kinds of stuff. And it's like, yeah, you were horrible to her, and so now she's being horrible back. So he tries to burn her house down with her in it, and then they just like don't get away with it. He's like, yeah, there's no way around this. I have to kill Nancy.
Yeah, and then years
It's
later
so-
wants to do it again, but he's like, I didn't have her address. He ran into her, and his future girlfriend gets in this violent fight with her, and you know, he wants to kill her again, but he can't find her address. And he said, with Nancy, while I didn't think it was right to cause death, I also didn't think it was right to deny myself the right to cause the end to a life either. Someone whose existence meant so little to herself and the world. And he basically compared murdering to a rite of passage, like losing your virginity or having a child. Like, what is, he's so sick and deranged in the mind. But I just don't understand how a book like this came out.
Like, he for sure said that to be inflammatory. He definitely doesn't think that doing a murder is the same as losing your virginity. Like,
Yeah.
he's definitely, you know what I mean? I think another thing that really pissed me off about this book is it's written by the guy who wrote The Game, but then also wrote Jenna Jameson's book, which is like extremely about being abused and sexually assaulted and used by people. And it's like, fuck Neil Strauss. Like, fuck Marilyn Manson.
You know, Jenna Jameson came out against Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, in her book
she says that he would like say that I want to like cut your legs off and eat them and stuff. He was obsessed with like lighting her on fire and having.
I mean, how in God's name did that same author get like wrapped up in both of these people's projects? That's insane. Also, The Game is that atrocious pickup player game like book, right? Like with the guys that like want a peacock.
Yeah.
Right, like wearing weird outfits. That's so weird. That is so weird. I didn't make that connection. That's why you guys are the best.
A very odd detail, I think.
That is so bizarre. Well, he goes into more of like the stuff that went on with like on stage and whatnot. But what I also thought was particularly fucked up was the crimes he was committing with the nativity scenes, and then trying to blame it on like a black militant group. Like, imagine it had worked and he had incited like violence towards black people like in that community by like pretending the nativity
those were all those
scenes.
He was just doing pranks. Like, he kept calling them like
yeah, I mean, remember Disney, you know?
He did all those pranks that no one noticed, and then he was like, next year we have to prank harder. He was like,
I skimmed that because I hate pranks. I hate pranks and I won't look at them.
Also, can I say
Well,
another
this
line from
book
this
had the
section?
worst pranks.
Really, he has terrible
Yeah,
pranks.
they would take
I
like
mean,
photos, right? They took like makeup photos and then would leave them at restaurants and be like, haha, she looks decapitated. And I'm like, I bet she didn't. I don't think you guys are like
pranked.
grade A artists.
Yeah, they literally thought
Oh
they were
yeah,
so spooky.
one of his other like stupid fucking lines in this book is when he's introducing his new girlfriend who gets into like that fight with Tracy. He's like, you know, the new girl that I was seeing was probably in, or what was her name, Nancy?
The new
The new
girl
girl is
was
Missy.
Missy.
No, but
But he
who's the
tried to
one who
murder
tried to murder?
Nancy.
Okay, so when he's talking about running into Nancy again, and when his new girl Missy gets into a fight with Nancy, he's like, you know, Missy was probably in middle school when I dated Nancy. And it's like, congrats.
Yes.
And he
Good
was like,
job.
it
Yes,
had
I'm
been
like, are you?
4 years. And how is she 4
Yeah.
years out?
And I'm like, okay, you're just telling us that she's like jailbait. Like, not that's like probably not an in vogue term, but like you're telling us that she's literally like just 18, if 18. And you know, I mean, there was a lot of weird stuff like that. Like when Trent Reznor's birthday happened. I mean, this is skipping a bit ahead, but like it does tie to this where like he intentionally found a prostitute who looked like she, according to him, was in middle school, and then brought her out to a restaurant. And Trent Reznor, it was his birthday. He assumed it was Marilyn's date, and she like got naked in this really nice steakhouse. But like he's like, and it was so funny because we probably looked like child pornographers. And before that, he was like, I was considering sleeping with her, but then she was talking about like, you know, all these drugs and stuff, and I was just like, you are truly like deranged on a different level in my mind. But at the same time, like Claire, you said it perfectly. Like also basic AF. Like so basic. Like I love that like we're now defining him as a basic bitch because he honestly is a basic bitch in like
He's just
Dracula's
rude.
clothing.
He like
He's
really thinks
rude
he's like
and boring.
twisted and interesting mind. He thinks he's so smart and twisted, and really he's just boring and mean.
So one thing that
he
I've noticed, I mean, one thing that I think in this book ties to like all of the worst people that I've ever dated in terms of like they all think that they're like so smart and like thoughtful and educated and philosophical, and like any guy who like quotes philosophers is just like dumb and annoying. Like it's worse than guys who memorize sports statistics, because those guys like at least have a hobby and they're like, whatever, I like memorizing sports statistics. Like guys who memorize philosopher quotes are just fucking assholes who like want to sound smart without ever having a single thought of their own. And he like just does that to a T so hard. And like every single chapter in this book starts with like a quote from some great philosopher or something like that. And it's just like, congratulations. You've read like the books that every person who like wants to look interesting has heard of. Like, brilliant job. I bet you that like it's like a fucking half skip away from Infinite Jest. Great work. Like, I don't know. It annoyed me so much. It made me so mad. I dated a guy who like would quote philosophers all the time. And one time, like when we started this podcast, I was dating him. And he like basically mentioned how I like he literally said to me, I wish you read smarter books. And I was like, is this the smart book?
Shut up. You should send this to him anonymously and be like, this reminded me of you, XOXO. Did
Oh my
you
God,
help
the Marilyn Manson book in the mail is a Manson-esque prank.
Oh my God, I know. Well, you know, it's so funny. Like I was like the first when I got the book a year ago, I was like, do I burn it? And I was like, do I no, because if somebody's gonna buy it, I want them to buy it secondhand. And like it was this whole thing. And I when I first brought it in, people wanted me to read it, and so I left it in my hallway and I saged it, and I got in trouble for that because I not supposed to use sage anymore, which I didn't know. And so anyway, I didn't even want to bring it into my like threshold, and I also like didn't want anyone else buying it. And I was like, this is very much for anyone listening. Like we are doing this so you like literally never have to, because it relates to like what's going on in the media, but like otherwise he's so irrelevant, and I hope he becomes less and less relevant unless we're hearing that he's getting locked up, which I think he fully deserves to be in jail for what he's done. One of the other things that stood out to me as like really awful behavior towards a woman was that girl at the piercing pagoda who didn't like him back. So he's like, I returned to my malicious and asinine ways of getting women's behavior. So they would go to this payphone where they could see her at her job and she couldn't see them. It was like him and his bassist, and they would call her and be like, we're gonna rape you in the parking lot on your way to the car, we're gonna run you over with your own car, like literally while she was at work for weeks on end, just stalking her out from this payphone and like harassing this woman. And again, like it's just like he's constantly like giving us examples, like, and I hope they use this stuff in like in court against him, because he's just literally telling on himself, you know?
Yeah.
It's really sick, the things. I mean, to double down on what you were saying, this book it's not shocking. It's not some crazy book that you're like, I can't even believe it. You know what I mean? This isn't one of those True Detective. I feel like people love disgusting murder mysteries or whatever. It's just like disgusting and awful and self-serving. There's something about somebody who's fucked up, and then there's another thing to be not fucked up and faking it for clout. That's so pathetic and disgusting and revolting. It's just garden variety I hate women, but done by somebody who's been given permission to go as far as he wants. You know what I mean? I don't know. The other thing is a lot of it probably isn't even true. Like you know what I mean? Like it is like, it's just all disgusting every way you look at it.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, he even said at the end of one of the chapters, I was becoming the cold and emotionally crippled monster I've always wanted to be. And I wasn't so sure I liked it, but it was too late.
Like,
the metamorphosis was already well underway. And I'm like, that is literally what somebody says when they're trying to act so tough and so hard that, ooh, spooky.
That's exactly what it is. It's like a 14-year-old who is mad at their parents, but he was preserved in amber at that status. There's that whole scene where he talks about seeing a woman whose like head has been bashed in and she's just dying alone on the street, asking somebody to come help her. That probably isn't even true. He just like wanted to make up some situation to let you know how much he doesn't care about human life. Like, I don't know. What a boring take. To me, I'm not impressed by somebody who doesn't care about human life. It's like just not.
No.
It's the easier thing to do.
It's
like.
No,
I guess I found this book extremely upsetting, not in the ways he wanted me to, but in the ways of like, it's like upsetting to me that someone who's this like try hard and dumb and boring like has cultivated such an audience. Like, why do we know who he is? Why does he have a book? Like, why do people think that he's smart or interesting? Like, it's pathetic, and it like makes me sad that anyone like buys tickets to these shows and like tries to smash the gizzard pinata, and like who are these people who are like in the crowd hoping to get cookies and that cat shit? Like, who are these? Like, it makes me sad that those people exist.
I know. I mean, one time I was like taken against my will to a Korn concert, and I think that's the closest I could get to maybe this kind of show. And like honestly, like it was just not for me. And like the mosh pits and everything, I just felt like, are we like coming here to be scared that we're gonna get hurt? Like I just not for me. But I mean, one of the reasons why like I delve so deep into this is because people really did like reach out to me, and I'm sure you guys with like your memoirs, like people give you tea and people give you like little tidbits of information. And one girl reached out to me and she was like, my aunt was this woman named Tina Bird, and if you want to look it up, her name is TEENA BYRD. And you can still find hatred towards her online. You can still find different things about her online in his fan forums, but essentially she was a super fan, and her niece herself even said like, my aunt's a little unhinged. She was a little unhinged, and she was a major fan of him. She really looked up to him, and she would write him these long love letters. He would read them on stage and incite his entire audience to attack Tina like online, and she actually ended up unfortunately killing herself. And so there are so many stories like that I don't think will make the documentary that made my inbox, with people who had these experiences with him, that it was just such a common occurrence at shows. I mean, obviously when we get further into the book, it's like anyone that wanted to go backstage, something bad was going to happen in order for them to get back there. So it's just really, really sickening, because he really doesn't have respect for life or for women.
And I feel like that's almost why it's a perfect system. Like, he built this perfect system where the kind of person who would look up to and love Marilyn Manson is probably somebody who doesn't have like a support system or isn't going to be believed. Do you know what I mean? Like, he cultivated this following of people where, and I'm sure it's been very easy for people to go, well, what do you expect? It's Marilyn Manson. Like, you thought you would be safe. Like, Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
in the same way now, I feel like there's people online who are uncancelable because their audience is people who are looking for fucked up stuff. Like I feel like he created this perfect group of people that he felt he could abuse no matter what because there would be no consequences. Because to be there in the first place suggests that you don't have, like, that you're not going to be believed or you're not somebody who anyone's like gonna look out for and come find later. Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like he like created his own perfect like koi pond of people he could abuse and get away with it.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree completely. I mean, and I also think you know, he was catering to maybe people who felt outcast and just like what you were saying, they may not have a support group and they might have felt like the odd one out, or maybe they had some, you know, they were outcast in a religious setting or whatever it may be, so they wanted to veer towards the opposite of like the satanic stuff, which, like, you know, who knows who any of us would be if we had gone through something really really bad in childhood in relation to religion or whatever it was, you know. um Not talking about Marilyn, but maybe some of his fans. So
Mhm.
it's just like I feel like not only did he do that, he used this like shock rocker art to cover up all the abuse. And it's like, if you're reading this book, it's so hard to decipher fact from fiction. It's so hard to decipher fact from fiction in his music videos, and he completely like created that situation to sort of gaslight all of us, where half the people believe that literally 16 women came out to as a, you know, a plot against Marilyn Manson, as opposed to like, you know, these women are telling the truth and this has been going on for years. So it's just insane to me. What did you guys think of Marilyn's rules for being an addict, and Marilyn's rules for being gay, and Marilyn's rules for cheating? Because that was all chapter
Well, let me
9.
tell you, as a memoir expert, these people can't ever hit a page count. And if you look, a lot of these pages are got quadruple spaced, huge font, tons of sketches. He uses letters, he uses old things he's written. That is not even something he probably believes. That's something that I'm sure Neil Strauss, the ghostwriter, wrote because they had to hit a page count because they barely got up to, how many pages is this altogether?
Like
I guess like
245 or
260.
something.
Yeah, I mean, those aren't even things he
Found
actually thinks. Those are because he doesn't have that much to say. I mean, as we've been saying, the man doesn't have that much to say. These are filler nonsense listicles.
literally 279, and one thing that we have found pretty consistently is it seems like 270 is the goalpost that I think publishers put onto them. I mean, we've seen people come short and we've seen people go long, but like I feel like if we went through every memoir we've read, especially the ones who clearly have nothing to say, 270 is a through line. And so he clearly just has nothing going on. He has like all he can think of is just like more fucked up things to say about like people he's known, or like what he would have done in a situation, like what his most fucked up brain idea is. There's so many pictures. It's all like disgusting. He looks
And it's
so
barely about
pathetic.
the music. That's the thing. There's barely anything in
What
there
music?
about the music, you know, or the creation. I mean, because he has this like career around music. Where is the information about the music? Because all I hear is information about what, like, the satanic persona, and then information about bad things he did to people. Like literally, like that is like those are the two themes in the book to me. And then there's like, oh yeah, we were like working on this album, and then we brought this person backstage and did this awful thing to them. Like it's just like there's nothing interesting about him, so he has to like use these very shocking situations. And like, so you got, it's so interesting talking to both of you because I actually wouldn't have spotted that. I'm not like a memoir expert at all. That's why I'm so glad I have you guys on, because that is so true. Like there's so many interviews in this. And some of the interviews are like shocking and stupid, but like there's so many interviews. There's like 3,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
4.
another space filler. I mean, something that I'm thinking about him that somebody said to me about a comedian I know is he was like, she doesn't want to be a comedian. She just wants to be interviewed and she has no talents. And I think that that mindset can apply to Marilyn Manson, where he's not a musician. He just wanted to have a backstory. He like wanted to be interviewed. He wanted to be the center of attention. And I guess nobody cared about it. His poems sucked too much dick to like actually get famous off of poetry. So he started doing something that he could call music. I don't know what it sounded like, but do you know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
like, it was never really about the music. It was about stage time, and you could get the
Can
most
I
stage
say
time and have the lowest expectations, I guess, under the musician headline.
I am at this moment in time not convinced there is any music. I like don't it. I don't think I've heard a single Marilyn Manson song. I know they covered it, but like that could have been karaoke. Like I have no idea that he has ever. He talks about going on tour with Danzig, and he's like, we just like weren't in the mood, so we didn't play any music. We just like smashed shit and yelled, and it's like, okay, was that all your shows, or did you sometimes play music? Like when you were with
yeah,
Dio,
and then
like,
he had that other thing where he like hated
Yeah.
all their demos, and then they go to New York City, and he goes to New York City to try to get like a record producer to record something for him, and he is in a bad mood, so he leaves New York City. Like maybe there is no music ever. Maybe we're the first people to ever notice that there's not one thing under the Marilyn Manson Spotify. Like,
Did we just uncover another scam? Like, it's the season of the
should I
scammer with
look? I'm
Hannah
looking at.
Delvey.
Spotify is down today, and I literally tried to look it up earlier, and I tried again just now, and I can't even check.
They knew about this discussion coming their way, and they knew that we were going to uncover this.
We
No,
crushed Spotify.
against my will again, like I heard the song. There's a song that's called "Birthday Cake and Sodomy," and
Oh yeah,
somebody's playing in a car once, and it made me want to die. I wanted to get out of the car. I had no interest in hearing it. I find it very like disturbing that he like the things that he, everything about him I find extremely disturbing. So you have to know that I have a lot of hatred in my heart for this man, that I would even read this book. And it's so funny, like I'm like, you know what? I've activated 2 additional sleeper cells in Brooklyn that also now know
yeah.
know what the deal is and can hate Marilyn Manson with me. So with the Empyrean interview, like, I mean, one of the things with the Empyrean interview that he puts as like a whole fucking section in the book is he's talking about an incident with Trent Reznor that Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails has fervently denied, which is he was playing a game called Kelly's Cornhole, which is so nasty. And he's like, a trick I've become known for, pouring a large glass of tequila for your adversary and pouring yourself a beer. You convince them to chug down the large glass until they vomit and pass out to be tormented. So you're admitting that you are assaulting someone.
Yeah.
And so he basically blindfolded her. She was absolutely wasted, and allegedly him and Trent, you know, were touching her. And, you know, he described her friend as like passed out, and he said, hopefully drowning in her own vomit. And I'm just like, the way that he treats women as like these disposable, like, like it's just so sickening the way he treats people. And then there was the other time on tour where he's like, they had these pranks and these challenges to entertain themselves. So he said the challenge was to go outside of the studio, which was where all of the transvestite and transsexual, which by the way, guys, like I don't think we say transvestite anymore, but just for the sake of the book, come out at night like little hermaphroditic cockroaches and pick one of them up to bring it back. And so Pogo, one of the people in his band, brings this person back, and they're in the sound studio where they'd be recording. The guys were all in that area where you can listen to the recording going on. They turn on the sound, and then the person catches on and is like, oh, if I'm gonna commit, like, do a sex act to you with all these people watching, you're gonna have to pay me more. And then Pogo went in another room and like did whatever he did with that person. But it was just also always like picking on these like vulnerable characters to try to humiliate them.
I mean,
And
he talks
also like just his language.
Yeah, the person that he was assaulting with Trent Reznor allegedly, they kept referring to as the sea bass. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah, and what are you guys like? It's just so crazy to me how degrading they were towards like women, just time and time again. And also, like, I just can't believe this book came out in 1996 and people didn't react to it like you're canceled. You know, like, do you
Yeah.
guys think that a book like this could come out today without like major backlash? Because I think he's like honestly admitting to crimes in this book.
I guess I kind of do think that it could,
Yeah.
which is, it like sucks, but I mean, we like don't live in a world where people actually hold men accountable literally at all. Like there are
Also,
a number of first wave
I'm thinking about
canceled
David
men.
Duchovny.
David
Like,
Dobrik?
didn't David Duchovny, whatever, David Dubrovnik, that's I
Yeah.
think a city in Croatia. David Dobrik didn't people recently be like, hey, we think it might be bad that you're constantly getting girls drunk and having them have sex, but he's still doing fine. And I guess that was his YouTube channel, right? Like, wasn't that like YouTubes of him? Or even, I mean, there's so many photographers, like party photographers are known for doing this still.
Yeah, I
what's
think
his
it
name?
definitely happens.
I think
What
it just
movie was
happens pretty. In American Meme, that documentary where they interview that guy, like Krill, I think is his name, and
Oh,
his whole thing is like, I mean, photographing, getting women like super drunk. It's like essentially like Instagram era Girls Gone Wild. It's like very exploitive, and he's like, they said yes, and it's like, okay, I mean, it's just like awful, and people just let people get away with it because the people that are like the people that care about other humans are not the people that are following these guys. Do you know what I
no,
mean? Like, so,
100%. And I was at a like movie premiere for The Adam Project on Netflix, and it's like, it was like a few weeks ago, and I'm walking out, and like it was, they did a Q&A after with like all the actors in it. So it was like Ben Affleck, Jennifer Garner, and there were like people there. There was Chrissy Teigen was there, John Legend was there. There was a bunch of people. I'm walking out, and like I'm not really paying attention who's next to me, and my friend's like texting me like, "Oh my god, like don't turn to your right." And I'm like, "Oh, why?" And like so I just like look forward, I walk out, we go to the bar, and he's like, "David Dobrik was right next to you." So clearly David is like still getting invited to things, you know what I mean? Like by like whoever invited him to that. And with the Kirill thing, it's interesting you brought that up. So I used to live in New York. I'm from Rockland County. I don't know if you guys know where that is, but anyway, I had a like peripheral person I knew that was like super involved in that Kirill stuff, like as a woman, and like I think it definitely had an effect, like a negative effect. But I think even with the Barstool stuff that's all coming out, it's like that whole blackout party that they would have where they were like, he said something about if you're like a size 6 girl wearing skinny jeans, you deserve to be raped. Like there was so much of that culture that was like people could just say it openly. I feel like I'm like 30. I don't know how old you guys are, but like when we were like in college, I feel like it was just so okay for like that kind of like language to be thrown around. I always think of Eminem too. Like I'm like his music is disturbing to me. Why was it ever okay for him to talk about his like wife like that?
Chris Brown. You want to say like people will not give up Chris Brown. It doesn't matter how many women he abuses. Like every year there's a new woman with allegations, and people don't care. They keep giving him music. They keep inviting him to stuff.
He's still collaborating on a lot of other stuff, like. And then also,
and he beat up a well-loved woman. I mean, we love Rihanna, but she's still a woman, and like, but still, he beat up Rihanna, and we wouldn't even come to her defense.
So with Chris Brown, one thing that I've noticed that's really interesting is because I am like vehemently, I mean, I think Chris Brown is like one of the worst people in the world, and I agree. It's like repulsive to me that he like keeps making music because I'm just like, how can no one else sing and dance? Like, how can they not just like find someone else? I don't understand. Whatever. There's so many men in music who are like truly evil. I like think that Justin Timberlake is really bad, but whatever. Anyway,
I hate him.
With Chris Brown, the point that I wanted to make is that I have seen backlash against people working with Chris Brown, and it's always people who are at a lower level of the music industry trying to succeed, and never the people who are deeply established also working with Chris Brown. Like no one comes after established artists to work with Chris Brown. They only, like I saw a backlash against Tinashe for working with Chris Brown, and she is like a pop star who's been trying to break out for like 7 years. And so it's like, yeah, obviously you shouldn't work with Chris Brown, but I feel like if you're a pop star who's trying to break out and your label says do a song with Chris Brown, you're in a really difficult position. Whereas like someone who's very successful, I don't know. It's like, I think they're all wrong for working with him, but I think that the fact that we only ever come after the people who are in like a lower place is like so fucking annoying on another level.
Well, there's such an imbalance of power.
Lee. Look at the Tommy Lee treatment that he's getting right now. We recently did a podcast called Dunzo, which is about celeb breakups. And Troy McKeedy, who's the host of that podcast, was telling us like quotes from interviews Pamela Anderson has given about the abuse she suffered at the hands of Tommy. And the fact that they have remade that relationship and done it. I couldn't finish it because I found it so disgusting, the way that they portrayed her and the way that she is portrayed as such like a bimbo with a heart of gold. And I mean, he has a talking penis. He is a man who went to jail and was in solitary confinement for abuse. And now he's getting this treatment where he was just a douchebag rock star with a talking penis. Like, that is such a rewriting of history. And to find out like how truly cruel he was, and the fact that they are doing a docuseries that is not showing how fucked up he was, like, you know what I mean? He's gonna come out for the better because he's getting a new hit of publicity. And like, this was an opportunity to really show who he was. He was somebody who regularly beat his wife, and instead he's just a man with a talking penis now.
And multiple people, like Heather Locklear, I think it was, who he was with before she came out. And I mean, it's one of those things, I never would have known the talking penis was from his book. I think you guys were the ones that read it, Tommyland. Yeah. But you know, the thing is, he's another one where Pam Anderson was reduced to a punchline, and he became this, like, you know, sex god. And it's just so interesting, even in Marilyn Manson's writing. Okay, if all these girls are sluts, your guys are fucking more people than anyone. Why aren't they sluts? You know, like, it's just like the double standard is out of control. And
yeah,
I mean, going through this book, it's just like, it's just a treasure trove of all of it. But then, like, he goes into that Jim Rose guy who was awful, all the backstage stuff. I mean, there was an enema incident where they had like an enema contest that was so disturbing. A fan coming back like as a prank that like was willing to be fisted by Marilyn Manson. Like, absolutely sick and disturbing things that, again, outline an imbalance of power where you have a fan that wants to go backstage that's getting coerced into this shit. Like, you know, that probably in the moment like agrees to it and then has trauma about it for a really long time.
I mean, I think the Tina Bird story, I know the Tina Bird story isn't actually from the memoir, but that's such a perfect outline of how, like, somebody was coming to you, like, with love. Somebody was coming to you out of admiration, and to take that and turn around and, like, cause them violence to the point that they die is so fucked up. Like, somebody was being vulnerable and open to you in a way that it seems that you're, like, nobody would think you wouldn't want a fan. And to, like, take that moment and basically kill them with it is, like, so sick.
And, you know, and the thing is, so you know, another story that kind of outlined the whole him being a kid and being the bullied person. Like, I had another woman reach out who alleged that like he was kind of a bully to her as a girl and like ganged up on her and like trapped her in like a little tunnel at one point and like had really like aggressive and like threatening behavior towards her allegedly as a child when they were growing up in Ohio. So, you know, you just hear these things and it's so crazy because even with the documentary that's coming out, I know we haven't even scratched the surface on all of the atrocities that probably took place at his concert backstage, you know.
I mean, in his own book, he'll talk about childhood. He talks about how him and his cousin would just take out their guns and shoot animals, and if they couldn't find animals, they'd shoot each other. I mean, from a young age, he was just shooting his own cousin. I mean, he has a story about killing that rabbit. Like, to give, I don't know, for a child to be walking around with a gun, just shooting things.
I thought that was disturbing, too, to want to kill a rabbit. And then I thought, what neighborhood has white rabbits running around it? I'm like, did he make this story up? You know?
It kind of feels like he did. Because he talks about, like, so he shot a rabbit with a BB gun, and the bullet went in its eye. So he was, like, the blood was gushing out of its eye onto its white fur, and then he killed the rabbit to put it out of its misery. Like,
it was the first time I felt bad for an animal. I just don't know where white rabbits live naturally. Like, the rabbits in the Northeast are brown. You know? That's when I was like, all right, Marilyn.
Also, I found it, like, how lucky for your narrative that your dog was poisoned the same day you finally see your grandfather jerking off. Like, it all felt very cinematic. How lucky for him.
And also, like, you know, then he puts the picture of the dog in there. What was that?
Yeah. Oh, no, I was going to say, like, cinematic, but in a way where he was like, it is kind of, part of me is like, this all sounds made up because it's stupid. But also, it's like, if this is the best he could make up, that's also stupid. To, like, 100%. See your grandpa jerking and then your dog gets poisoned. Like, yeah, that's crazy. But, like, I don't know, if you're rewriting your life with, like, wild traumas, you couldn't have done better.
150%. It's almost like there's a part of me that thinks that his like weird like and like dumb like attempts at writing were infused into his own like life to try to make himself more interesting, but really like he truly is just like this like fuming, like odious, anxious, like just basic bitch, just like Claire said. I mean, he really is a basic bitch. So anyway, what did you guys make? So he goes to San Francisco and he gets an appointment with the doctor who is the head of the Church of Satan, who's a showman who quite like Marilyn Manson, I think makes up some fucking stories about himself. And he of course he has to go to the guy's house at 2:30 in the morning because they can't meet at a normal time. Like, he has to be like a
Yeah.
vampire bat coming out from out of the trenches. What did you guys make of that, his meeting with Anton LaVey?
I found it pretty embarrassing. I was like, I don't know, just go back to the church then if this is what you're looking for. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
It was, I don't know, like the way he was so impressed by this guy. I was like, okay, I don't know, that's pretty humiliating.
The name dropping was so embarrassing too. Like, he was like, I love that you named yourself Marilyn Manson. He's like, you know, two conflicting like things. He's like, but I can't call you Marilyn because when I was a pianist at a place where Marilyn Monroe was stripping, like she and I had an affair, and out of respect to her, I have to call you Brian. And I'm like, yeah, fucking right. Like, it's the name dropping for me, And this guy
Yeah.
was definitely a name dropper. He liked his like celebrity association. He also talked
Which
about
is
said
so
he had a
funny.
relationship. It is.
I was just
ridiculous.
Like, it's funny to be like, fuck God, I worship Satan. Anyway, I know Justin Bieber.
Yes.
Like, it's such a worldly, it's such like a of the world value system when you're trying so hard to pretend that you have a different value system.
Totally. And he created this whole spooky thing where like Marilyn walks in and the door creaks open without him even ringing the doorbell because there is no doorbell, and then he's greeted by the wife, and he has all these like spooky curiosities around his house, like like Nazi memorabilia and like Stalin books and like just the weirdest shit. And
yeah, it's
then
also interesting he's like spooky curiosities, Nazi stuff, and it's like it's not so much spooky as it is like I don't know, really violent and evil.
Like, if he wasn't
No.
so abusive, like he really like it could be an SNL skit with like Stefan, like New York's hottest club is Marilyn Manson's.
And then just like it's so funny. It really is just like, what are the things I'm not allowed to do? Actually, I like those things. Dude, it's so a little kid saying the F word because they learned they can't or something.
Yes.
That is it. That is absolutely it. And anyway, if anyone like listening, the Anton LaVey thing, he was the head of the Church of Satan, and Marilyn Manson gets an audience with him, and honestly, it's just super lame. Like there were spider webs in the bathroom, and there were snakes all over the kitchen. It's like, I feel like it was like somebody's like Halloween set or something. So anyway, just totally crazy.
Oh my God, you know what the tackiest part was? When the baby, like the little kid is there and he's trying to take off Marilyn's ring. So I'm like, first of all, you hail Satan and you can't get a grip on your own 4-year-old. Like first of all, make your kid behave. And then he says to the wife, he like quotes Rosemary's Baby. He's like, he has his father's eyes. And I'm just like, what? Like, just the idea that like Nazis, spider webs, and Rosemary's Baby, like a movie made in Hollywood, are all on equal footing spooky. Do you know what I mean? It's just so like a hodgepodge of like somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. I can't explain it, but like these are not in the same category. But it's like he doesn't know what the category is.
No, I totally agree with you. It's actually really embarrassing. So
to quote Rosemary's Baby is like, and be like, we hail Satan. You know what I mean? Like, what are you gonna like? Is Freddy Krueger your hero too? Like, these are not real things. It's
yeah, I will say it does remind me like very definitively of a haunted house that I went to. So in my hometown where I grew up, they did a haunted house every year after the swimming pool closed for the season. They would like turn the locker rooms area into a haunted house. So like when you're like I mean, it just like was a good weaving situation. And me and my friend went, and there was a guy with a chainsaw, and we like cried so much they had to let us out the back exit because we can only make it halfway through the haunted house. And I think back on the haunted house, it was all just like trash bags, and then like one guy with a chainsaw with the chain off of it. And I'm like, that's the exact house that he was in. Like, he was literally in just like some shitty place that they like covered the window with trash bags, and we're like, scary, right? And it's
Anton
like,
LaVey's
yeah, I
house
don't
is
know.
really a spirit Halloween.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There's like a spirit Halloween, and also like a pimple popping video, and also, you know, your ex-girlfriend who called you ugly, and also your least favorite food, and also Nazis, and also like nap time, and also like just everything you hate, but like with no regards to the severity, like the different, like it's just everything gross and annoying and bad.
Like playing songs backwards to hear like satanic words, and like a wound that's like infected, and like a upside down crucifix. Like, I swear to God, like that is exactly it. We need Stefan to do like Marilyn Manson's book
Yeah.
has everything. Like, but
Yeah.
so I thought the meet and greet. So he has a chapter called 13 meet and greet. Basically, they cover this girl and meet. She's like backstage, and this is just one of many disgusting things that they do. One of the guys has sex with her while everyone watches on, and then he shouts to her, "I'm gonna come in your useless ear canal." She was deaf.
Yeah, she's
And
deaf.
then she was like, "I want to get in a shower," and then they're like, "Can we all pee on you before you shower?" And allegedly that went on. And then another guy came in having no idea that she'd just been peed on, and he then went and slept with her. So like, it's just like, not only were they like degrading towards women, like they just wanted to like humiliate women and cover them in like disgusting things, and like it's just like really weird behavior to me. But again, like I think we keep harkening back to the idea that this is like the gross kid at the lunch table. You know what I mean? Or like the
Yeah.
weird kids table where they like are like putting ketchup on things, and like they're just like, their behavior really hasn't evolved past that like
It's that,
childlike
but it's also with the
vibes.
added of, it's like them going, "You dare me to eat this?" And you being like, "No." And they're like, "I would." And you're like, "I didn't even ask you
Okay.
to." Like, you're being gross for no one. Nobody wants you to do this.
Like,
You know what I
literally
mean?
nobody wants to hear about this. Nobody wants to see this. Like, it's truly
Yeah.
just so gross. And just so disgusting. So the other thing I think that really stuck out is the bus driver Tony Wiggins, who made that contraption that almost like killed a girl, basically. They had this contraption backstage where it would put you in like this really weird position I couldn't even fully understand, where you like not had at a 90-degree angle, but your legs were spread, and you had all these ropes, and you were like suspended. But if you moved any limb, it was going to start tightening around your neck. And he started filming these confessions of people. And there were a bunch of really awful confessions. What's crazy is like the police raided his home in November for video footage, and like I know he obviously speaks about this video footage, but it's never been released. And there's a lot of videos that he's taken that weren't released. And there was one that I found in my research like a year ago that was some of the most disturbing shit I've ever heard in my life, for about 30 seconds of a girl like clearly like crying, like praying, like it was like something bad was happening to her. And when I found that tape, it was on this obscure blog, and it was basically like only 4 people have seen this, and Marilyn's lawyer only let him release this little snippet. He was going to use it for a whole music video, but he was advised not to. And like all that other footage, he was advised not to use because he would have needed like signed consent from these people who were taken backstage, put in restraints. And I mean, did you guys get to the point where that guy sold off his sister? Because that was really fucked up.
I have to be honest. I did not make it to this chapter, like, but out of like, it was like just like so much abuse. I had to like skip to the, like, I just like, I didn't know how you felt about him before this pod, but there was a moment I was like, fuck this bitch. Why is she making me read this? Like, it was just a lot of abuse for the sake. I mean, hearing you say it all now, like now that we've condensed it onto this podcast, like the idea that he's looking back at his life and his memoir, like telling the story of his life, he has condensed down to moments of humiliating other people. When he's like, who am I? Well, I am this collection of horrible things I've done to other people. Like, this isn't even a memoir. This really is like just bragging rights. I did get to a point in this book where I couldn't keep going because I was like,
I get it.
Sick.
I get it. And
I'm glad I didn't keep going because this is horrible.
So when I read it a year ago, I got through maybe 3/4 of it. I read it in a month, which it wasn't that long of a book, but I had to keep on taking breaks. And people on TikTok were like, Lauren, like, oh my God, when's the next part? And I'm like, for my mental health, like, I just need a break. And it was deep pandemic. So I was like also alone and
Yeah.
very like isolated at the time, where it was like, couldn't be with this book for that much time. But to be honest with you guys, I repressed a lot of this. And as I was reading this back, I'm like, damn, are my new friends going to hate me? Like, I was like, fuck, like, I was just so fired up last week or 2 weeks ago, when all this shit came out about him trying to go after Evan Rachel Wood right on the heels of her coming out with this amazing documentary. And she's tried to change legislation, and they're really trying to make laws that are helpful to victims. And so anything that you say about somebody with fans, it's always so hard. But what I like about what you guys do, and what I liked about going through this book, was that it's his own words. I'm not
Yeah.
pulling
Yeah.
anything out. It is his own words that he is telling us. It is his own incidents that completely corroborate what these women are coming forward with, and that is the entire thesis of this like breakdown for anyone listening, is that
And I
fuck
think it's
Marilyn
important
Manson.
to say, like, something that we really believe in our podcast is, because we get a lot of books where we're like, did the celebrity write any of this? Like, this is so ghostwritten. This is so like not that emotional. You can tell just as much from what somebody wants you to think about them as you can from them being legitimately open and honest. So, like, obviously we're sitting here being like, did he really shoot a white rabbit in the eyeball? Did he really walk by a woman bleeding on the sidewalk and ignore her? I don't know that those literal things happen, but the fact that he wants you to think in his nonfiction book that that is something that happened tells you just as much as any of it does, I think. Like, this is a man who wants you to believe that he is evil. So no, normal people don't want that. If you want people to think you're evil, there's a very good chance you are also doing evil things behind the scenes. And if he has a lawyer involved, like, I actually do think he's smart enough to know I can't put real stuff in this book that I could go to jail for. So I'm going to put fake stuff in this book that I could go to jail for, and then keep all the real jail stuff secret in my apartment. You know what I mean? Like, this is still an evil man because he wants you to think he's evil. And that is the sign of an evil person.
Well, right. He changed names and like slight circumstances, and even said that to protect identities. But really what he did it for was so that nobody could loop back and be like, that was me. Or one little detail was changed so nobody could loop back and be like, that was me. And like, I think, the last like abusive thing I'll tell you guys about that you probably didn't get to is his bus driver created this evil contraption, and then they were filming people giving confessions, and like the confessions were awful. They were about their abuse. They were about their trauma. So everything that we said about these fans being vulnerable people that then are idolizing this man, that go backstage, that then get stripped naked and are put in this suspended contraption and, questioned, and that's their opportunity to meet somebody they idolize. It's like the imbalance of power is so insane. And I mean, even with Evan Rachel Wood, she was 19 when she met him. He groomed her for a very long time, according to her. What I think is really creepy is Phoebe Bridgers went into his house, and he was like, oh, that's my rape room. And it was a soundproof room that now his victims have come out and said, we were held in solitary confinement in there. Like, it was bad. Like, he used that for like very insidious things. So there's a lot of fact and fiction here, and a lot of bending of stories and the truth that I think he uses as an object, as a tool to gaslight us all, but tell us some truths. And it's exactly like what you said. That is the perfect way of putting it. Like, you can tell as much about a person by what they want you to think of them than by what is actually true. Like, that is so on point. You're clearly like, you guys are learning so much from reading these memoirs about PR and like what people want you to think.
Because it's funny, like, you would think like, oh, well, they're not telling the truth, but like what I want in my aggrandized version of myself for people to think of me is going to be different than yours. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I were to lie and be like, everything's fine, I'd be like, everything's fine. My comedy career is going great. Like, the podcast, like somebody else might be like, everything's going great. Like, me and my husband are so happy and the kids are perfect. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has different things that
Rachel
they want
Hollis.
people to think of them. Yeah, exactly. Like, but do you know what I mean? Like, I think those values, like what you're lying about, says just as much about your values as the truth.
Yeah.
Damn, that is.
And if you could get past the lies, you can figure out what's actually happening. But you can still tell what somebody's like the idea that what he wants people to know about him is that he doesn't respect women. Like, okay, I believe you. Trust me. I believe you don't respect women. You've convinced me.
And you can't backtrack now. because we all know from this book
Yeah.
that you truly don't respect women. Well, the last thing that really happened in the book, and I know it was like kind of a time crunch for us to all read this, and it's just the worst book of all time. But basically, the ending of the book and how it wraps up is he has this like overdose. He gets sober, and again, I don't think he stayed sober. But this is 1996. So, and my friend has been a friend of mine went to one of his shows at like he was at something and saw him snorting cocaine off the stage, so he clearly wasn't sober for that much long after this. But he has to go back to his cousin who he used to snoop with's wedding, and his cousin has this normal life. His family is mad at him because he's been talking in the media about his grandfather and all these people in this awful way. And they get back after the wedding reception to the grandmother's house. The grandfather's passed. He goes into the basement. A lot of the sex toys were like gone and the different weird things the grandfather had, but in the paint canister he still found allegedly that the pornography that was in there, and he took some of it. And he realized like, wow, I'm a lot like my grandfather. And then he was also trying to tie in that he started feeling things again and he became a more caring person, and that was like literally the end of the book. So
that's all bullshit
it's just
to me.
so stupid.
Yeah.
I just like don't believe that. Also, I want to say it's ironic that he has to get sober at the end, because there's that whole section where he talks about one of his bandmates who has a problem with heroin and his lack of compassion, and how at one point he thought about letting him choke and die in his own vomit, like purposefully, so that he wouldn't have to deal with his addiction anymore.
See,
so I don't know. I don't buy any of it. I mean,
he's
just a piece of shit. He's just a piece of shit, and he's boring.
I
think he should be in jail.
I'm willing to bet that this like through line of coming back to the house where it all started was like the Neil Strauss of it. Like that was the ghostwriter being like, all right, there has to be a conclusion to this story. It was none of that. I would say the part that I feel like is the least real is that he like had any sort of awakening of any kind.
Yeah. I mean, clearly like with his like behavior after the book and what's coming out now, like there's no way. But I just have to say, I appreciate you guys for trauma bonding with me. I'm very sorry for making you read that. I promise that if you ever like need somebody to help you like read an awful book, like I very much owe you one. When I'm back in New York, I want to meet both of you. So,
oh my God, I would love to meet you. I mean, the problem is I read these books like all in one sitting. So I was like sitting down, just like trying to stomach it. I was like, I can't. I'm gonna throw up.
Listen, we all need to go to dinner when I'm back in New York, and we can talk about Phoenix Rising when this comes out, because I can't wait for him to get absolutely eviscerated next week, and I can't wait for all the women to have a voice. And like, really, the only purpose of this podcast, nobody buy the fucking book. I will send you my copy if anyone needs it for journalistic purposes. But like, really, this book was just him telling on himself, and that's why I did the series. And I needed my experts to come on, but like literally nobody buy this book that's listening. Just don't support this man. Don't support any music he's in. He's awful.
Yeah. I like highly recommend not reading it, but if anyone wants mine, I like need it. Like I like to keep the books that we've read around for like reference. I have my like memoir library, but like no offense. I loved coming on. I loved talking to you. I'm happy we met. I don't want to look at this book ever again.
Nope. The cover's creepy. I hate having it in my house. So listen, if anyone wants it, I'll send it to you within the next few weeks. But otherwise, I might be going to Dockweiler's Beach and like burning it. I might be a book burner because of him.
I literally, because I don't want to put it on the street. Okay, but thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate it.
And before we go, okay, is there a memoir that you guys do recommend people read that you guys have picked up recently?
An equal and opposite, Mel B. Tiffany Haddish, but I would say like Mel B has a really incredible, inspiring story of surviving in a marriage. And I think if you're looking to like counteract the hate of this book, she is like a really inspiring, honest, vulnerable, strong person who could use your support. So Mel B from the Spice Girls, that's what I would recommend.
I would also recommend Mel B from the Spice Girls. I think that it just is a really, like Claire said, she survived an abusive relationship and wrote a really powerful book about it that I actually think will help a lot of people. So that's, it's like a hard book to read if you've like experienced abuse, but it's like, I think it's one that I'm glad exists and recommend.
I am totally going to dive into Mel B and anything Spice Girls. I'm like, sign me up, 90s baby. Well, thank you guys so much. So tell everyone where to find you.
Celebrity Memoir Book Club. That's our podcast. That's also our TikTok, our Instagram. And then my personal Instagram is Claire the Scare.
And then mine is Ashley Ham with 3 M's.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much. It's been a delight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you for coming on the wild Marilyn Manson ride. It was definitely a bumpy book to read. And hopefully we'll see this man, you know, getting the consequences he deserves for his behavior. But on March 15th, Phoenix Rising is coming out with Evan Rachel Wood. So it's going to be on HBO. Highly recommend everyone watch it so you can get the perspective of the women that were affected by this man. And I hope that this book helped you, you know, see that there is credence to their claims. It shouldn't take a book for people to believe victims, but Marilyn definitely told on himself. So anyway, guys, have a great day and thanks for tuning in.